Hello everyone, it's your favorite FGC VTuber back at it again with the next, well, I don't know if it's really a controversy, but it's something that actually never occurred to me, but I quite thought, you guys can see from the title, is Perfect Legend. I think this dude got clapped like 10-0 by Sonic Fox. I could be wrong. Apologies if I'm wrong. What stopped the FGC from playing Dead or Alive or Killing Things? The initial tweet right here. It says, the day fighting games... See, the reason you see this is from her, you guys tell me, I even agreed that her whole thing, financial barrier, is very hard, but also the day fighting games go free to play is the day we actually stop being a niche genre. The financial barrier is huge, especially when high quality games are in abundance. This is why I'm excited for 2XKO. I'm not, even though I do not plan to play it, I just want to know what is possible. So, first things first, I'll even add before we get into it, is the funny thing is that people forgot Virtual Fighter was free to play on Plus. So I think like that alone, just simply saying, oh, something's gonna, it helps a lot. But it's not going to drastically change it. There's a lot of things that matter. Like, number one, I'm going to keep it real. Is marketing matters over everything. Trust me. Everything. One good example is Cyberpunk. And I said, that game was not in a great state. But regardless, main tweet. What stopped the FGC from playing Dead or Alive and Killer Instinct? I have an answer for both, by the way. Those have been free to play over a decade. What do you mean to say is you want Street Fighter to be free to play? I mean, it's basically KI. So, let me explain to you exactly why, even though we've had three free to play. People really only want Street Fighter and Tekken to be free to play because they have the same idea that it would make them as popular as League and Fortnite fighting games, and be as popular. They require some kind of. That is I think, again, I'll always mention. I think that's for the higher level and pro. Casually, I don't think it matters as much. There's no financial barrier to fighting games. We're gamers. If we're just enjoy the hobby, we have the money to spend. Absolutely, they just don't want to and have to choose between a fighting game and the next annual Call of Duty. Absolutely, he gets it. He gets it. It's funny because to become a VTuber, when people say the barrier is 250, you could just do what I do. I'm out of the loop. See, no, and exactly, it's BS. It's individuals who now removed have so much power and influence over the games are at Evo. That's true. That's yeah. There's too much. They hate on DOA and call it it is a TD fighter though. That's one of the main reasons, honestly. Damaged by free-to-play aspect commercially, almost everyone ever play it. KI definitely thrived a ton. Yeah, no, it's funny. KI actually would have not done as good if it was not free to play. Actually, I will say this: Tekken and Street Fighter would have a bigger audience if it did have a free to play component. Like, it would help a lot. Like every element for anything, it helps. It's the overall package of problem. Look at Warzone. Advertising's amazing, well-known franchise. Like, it's something you gotta go with the back-offs of stuff. And fighting games outside of Street Fighter 2 era haven't really rolled that train. They're very behind. Like, one of the biggest thing is content. Content. I cannot stress this enough. Content matters. You know, at the end of the day, and also the appeal. What are you really doing to appeal to the average consumer? Mortal Kombat has this nailed down, and people still buy it. That's not the issue, right? But let me get specifically why free-to-play isn't and hasn't, but can. I mean, well, it can save. Trust me, that's one of the reasons I'm trying to do something with my fighting game, but that's not the point. Idol Showdown's free to play. There's plenty of free to play. To me, number one, why I think those two specifically, big titles, fairly more DOA, more known. Number one, it came out during an era where free to play wasn't that good quite yet. I mean, it still isn't. To be fair, I feel like free to play was never good. It still isn't. But it was back during, in my opinion, where free to play games were super far and few between, and they were like niche things. Like Ace Combat was one of the best free to play games you could play at the PS3, but that was if you liked playing games, and that's mega niche. But the bigger problem that fucked KI over is the fact that it was only on Xbox. That was the bigger nail in the hammer than I think the fact that it was free to play. I think the free to play component helped it a fuck ton, honestly. That's 100% why KI, because Xbox was during there with the Kinect shit. Like, that shot themselves in the foot. That was number one. And it came to PC too late. That's number two. DOA, no one takes it serious. That's number one. Number two, I think it was PlayStation exclusive. I could be very wrong. And then three, I'm gonna keep it real. Outside of Ninja Gaiden, homie, the cast isn't very appealing outside of titties. And mind you, I love DOA to watch. That's all I'm gonna say. To play it, I think the game is ass. 3D fighters, I think, are just generally harder to get on. Like, unless you have a cast like Tekken and Soul Calibur and have like, you gotta have your gimmick. Soul Calibur was its character creator and its guest characters detrimentally to the point where the fact that they didn't have Star Wars characters anymore, I didn't even want to play that shit. Whereas Tekken, the presentation is amazing and the marketing's great, and it has legacy. Like, the thing about fighting games, it's a lot of games right now, legacy helps so much. If you're not legacy, you're already going an uphill battle. That's where we're currently at. KI's legacy is not as strong, and DOA's legacy is not as strong either. So even though there are legacy, they're what we consider like second to third tier legacy. Like, there's a lot of things that matter far more, but I would argue if they release now in a free-to-play format, it would do a lot better. But then also, how well are you marketing that? Fantasy Strike is also free to play. It's crazy. We actually have games that are free to play, and it's funny. I think some of the Japanese developers do kind of do this and see, why should I make my game a free to play? And the funny thing is, games like Street Fighter and Tekken, I don't know if it would be as lucrative, because the thing about people who invest money in fighting games, they're already gonna do it. I think honestly, if you're in that first tier, you going free to play, as much as it would grow with the scene a little bit, it would not help that much monetarily, because I would argue 80 to 90% of the people would already buy the game, and they're going to be interested in putting more money. Whereas the other 10%, they would never buy it. Maybe it was supercharged to a degree, like 20, 30. They probably won't put in more money. And that's what you want. When you want free to play, especially when you go free to play, you want people to put in more money. Like, whether your pro ones will put even more, and the non ones will put almost as much, right? Or half. I don't see that happening with fighting games, honestly. Unless they can really figure out a model or something to do, and they're trying and they're failing. They're absolutely failing. They're testing the waters for that. If they can have it where their monetization can win them more money confidently with little to no pushback, which is not going to happen because the FGC is far too traditional. We like buy a game, that's it. Kind of, we have, like, you know, it's two completely different audiences. That's the thing that sucks, is that the audiences who primarily play fighting games and invest kind of thing, like, they're already bitching about DLC and shit. They don't pay more than that, and even then hardcore and sales and this and that. Like I said, to me, it already feels as a product to make those people happy. Making it free to play is just a huge adjustment that it's like a motherfucker. I mean, from what I heard DOA or VF is trying, and it's a motherfucker, because the problem with BF, their bigger problem, is the game just isn't very marketable. That's the whole thing we talked about, marketability in games in my Vivecast. We'll check that out. But the character designs are just too bland, and I think the story is weak as fuck. That was either the whole thing about if story matters in fighting games. I think they absolutely do. But to me, it's like, and then on top of that, how the hell do you have really good content? I think that helps a lot when your game's free to play. I mean, Halo kinda like it's a bitch. Like especially fighting games, like we have the models of like battle passes, and the thing is, again, a huge majority of the audience doesn't want that shit. They really don't. And the new people, well, that's all they're used to. But how can you really sell them all this stuff? Like, you kind of need to, like, they're gonna look at all the old stuff and they still need that. Like, they are going off the back of what the old stuff is. And it's super hard to satisfy both crowds, honestly. I think that's one of the reasons why free to play for the most part hasn't worked that much for fighting games. I mean, I can see a world where, like, at best, I could see KI would have done the best right if it was free play. If Xbox was being stupid with the Kinect, it advertised it heavily as fuck. Maybe a bit more stuff to do, if I'm being honest. And lastly, I guess I think another problem with fighting games is that what they really need, another thing besides offline content, is like multiplayer. Like more than just to like a core problem with fighting. Oh, the people have to take responsibility. I think that is a core thing for, again, higher. But like, most people don't want to face each other. They want to play together, and you can see this. The amount of people that demand co-op in games is insane. That's why, and to me, and this is just more fun, I've had the most fun playing games like fucking cross tag and shit, or Street Fighter Cross Tekken. You know, I think that's another thing. Is like, how do I get all the homies to get together, right? Have like a Smash mode or some shit, and that's another thing that makes Mortal Kombat super fun. Because at the end of the day, dude, even something like Mortal Kombat, people just play them like a party game, honestly. And at the end of the day, games are supposed to be fun. And I think fighting games taking themselves too serious and forgetting that, like, you're going for the fucking hills, missing the Poddle or bot or some bullshit, whatever it is, right? But yeah, no, that's on a whole nother discussion. I mean, free to play can help a lot, but I think it helps a lot more for upstarts. I don't know how successfully Fantasy Strike helped a lot going free to play, but it's tricky. It really is. And it's like, how do I really get my money? Because at the end of this, true, like, either you're already invested in play fighting games or you don't. I don't know. I think it can help get your foot down the door. And again, Fantasy Strike has one of the best models. Like, you get all the characters. I think locking characters is just not great. That's the core of what a fighting game is. Like, oh, you want colors or this or that? We'll charge you. And I was like, that's genius. That's genius. And on top of that, you only have to pay for the characters that you play. I think Fantasy Strike has one of the best free-to-play models I've ever seen, which is crazy. I think the bigger problem is that because it's such a low entry barrier, a huge majority of the shit does not care for it or just doesn't like it. And again, they don't have a huge marketing budget. So I think the average normie or person who would have bothered to wouldn't hear. And the thing is, it gets cock-blocked by a bunch of other shitty fucking free-to-play games. Like, right now, as it stands, Fantasy Strike is one of the best free-to-play fighting games, period. It's not even a contest. And again, KI's monetization muscle isn't too bad either. Like I said, I just think, again, the huge roster that's locked out is a motherfucking having to come in and be like, yeah, no one's doing that. DOA I just think DOA is trash. I don't care. That game to me is just like, dude, the game feels like shit. And it's the titty fighter. Like, come on, that shit's just dead in the water. But yeah, no, there's a lot of things that stopped. I could have seen KI and Fantasy Strike, I think, done a lot better because of and then I think that would have been a completely different conversation. I mean, I could see the three, right? VF, Fantasy Strike, KI. But the main thing I will always say is if they just had better marketing and advertisement, I think a lot of things would have been changed. Or heck, if they were even like in events and shit, I think that would have pushed a lot more within the FGC. And then content creators and shit like that. I think that's the final hammer, right? FGC, overall marketing for normies, and then like actual FGC events. If these could have played in for those three, I think it would have been a lot better. But like I said, the problem is some events have too much control. At the end of the day, some retarded fucking ass fucking event organizers would rather have Smash for absolutely no fucking reason, you know, over actual authentic fighting games that deserve the limelight. Because when people say, oh, they're like whatever, it's usually either for the money or some other, or just numbers. They don't actually really care about the games, honestly. But that's all I got to say on that. I think fighting, I mean, 2XKO, like the only reason that's gonna do okay to be same with DNF is because it's gonna have a huge crossover base. The FGC, again, we already said the FGC thing because they're trying to prop it up. We got people moving over from, and again, some normie, but mainly PC, which is a small player base compared to overall normie. And I think some people, their marketing's doing okay. They seem to be pulling the marketing, both FGC and the core. But I see 8/10 minimum or 9/10 of the league player base leaving. God example, just look at the NF Duel. Clearly, they never played a real game before, so they have no idea how to play a game that requires some skill to actually bother to play. So we're gonna see a massive fucking drop off. There's no question, but that'll be a good boost. But I think I'm gonna call it 2XKO is not gonna pop off like people think it is. It'll have an initial, maybe the best. Maybe see, I give it 3 months before it really dies. And they might actually have like an active scene, kind of like we see some other stuff. Like even Idol Showdown, like okay, whatever, it'll be there, have a presence. I don't think it's gonna be massive. It might be one of the biggest out of all the lure ones at best, because again, marketing matters a lot, and people are trying to push it. And then there's gonna probably be a giant. I mean, good example. Look at Multiverse. They put a price. No one gives a shit. I think it'll be similar to that sense, but maybe it'll have more like longevity because of the fact that it's actually a fighting game over it not being. Me personally, I'm not really supporting or give a shit. Like I said, I think the main reason it's even succeeding because again, it's legacy, has existing player base to a degree, and then FGC is a good, like I'd say half at least is willing to hop on, but it's not an overall, like, I mean, think about it, I want this shit to fail. People are not gonna cross over easily, and at the end of the day, the legacy title is only for PC, and only like I'd gather 1/10 of the PC player base really, so it's not like you're getting, you know, GTA player number. Like, you're getting basically a niche title. Again, similar to DNF. I mean, it's bigger than DNF for sure. But at the end of the day, it's a niche. It's not something at the level of Call of Duty or Fortnite even, right? So, you know, the average person still probably wouldn't know about 2XKO. I mean, it might, if anything, I think in this case, because of the fact it's going to get a lot of advertising on the PSN store, I think casuals will hear more of it from there than anything. And maybe, oh, I've heard about League. Is this what League is? Like, I can see people genuinely thinking that League is a fighting game over a thing. Because, first of all, what was a game? No one gives a shit. They're 100% niche. And because of the fact they're only on PC, I meant the big thing, like, to be a true esport, you can't only be on one platform. It just doesn't make sense, especially PC. Even though it's the superior platform, it's just not happening. The average person doesn't play on fucking PC, you know? That's why, to me, people say, oh, League's part. Like, no, it's not. You could go up to Chicago right now, bro. I could talk to 90% of people and they'll be like, the fuck is League? You know? Especially, like, the average person. You go to gamers, at least half of them will hear of it, whether they play it or not, right? You know, I take into account. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say. Leave your comments thoughts below, whatever. I think free to play is great. I just, like I said, it really is marketing. Like I said, the problem is, again, Fantasy Strikes there, but how many people actually actively see it? It's getting talked about by Fortnite and all the other bullshit. You know, like Sony actively is just a piece of shit and doesn't actually care about indies or good games. They just, oh, money, shitty game, or whatever. That's a bigger problem. That's in general, really. You know. So it's on the developer to throw money to be like, hey, Sony, quit being stupid. You know, advertise the shit, you piece of fuck.